interact, and grow. When you have the CFA charter, you're globally recognized. Take advantage today by writing the CFA exam and joining us at CFA Society Nigeria. For more information, visit us at cfasocietynG.org. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
Money Talks. Money Talks. Money Talks.
Money Talks. Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria. Let's talk about money.
We are professionals. We are impact driven. We are CFA Society Nigeria, a member society of the CFA Institute Global Network of Societies. Our mission is to promote the highest standard of practice in the Nigerian financial services industry and provide a vibrant community for our members. The CFA Charter signals the holders' commitment to professional excellence. As thought leaders, we collaborate with stakeholders to ensure adherence to ethical standards, better education for professionals, and to build market integrity. We are the leading voice for advocacy in the finance and investment industry in Nigeria. To partner with us or become our member, visit us at cfasocietynG.org for more details. CFA Society Nigeria, making finance a force for good.
Money Talks. Money Talks.
Money Talks. Money Talks. Money Talks with CFA Society Nigeria. Let's talk about money.
Welcome once again. It's another Monday and it's Money Talks, brought to you by CFA Society Nigeria here on 92.3 Inspiration FM Smart. Uwadiae is my name. Thank you so much for joining. My guest this evening is Osadiaye, CFA. Uwa is a Senior Vice President, Oil and Gas and Industrials at the FBN Quest Merchant Bank after transitioning from FBN Capital in 2015. In this role, he heads equities coverage of both public and private markets. Prior to his appointment, Uwa worked as a sell-side analyst at BGL Group and Chapel Hill Denham Securities. He's a multi-sector expert with past coverage of financials, FMCGs, energy, agro-allied and industrials such as fertilizers and cement. Uwa holds a BSc in chemical engineering from the University of Lagos and is a CFA charter holder. I'm sure you're trying to reconcile chemical engineering and CFA charter holder. We'll get to the point. We're going to be talking this evening on making your financial plan to work. So first, let's welcome Uwa Osadiaye to the studio this evening. Uwa, good evening to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Captain.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
As I was saying, chemical engineering,
yes.
Financial expert.
Yes. It's pretty common in in the finance space.
Yeah.
I remember at FBN Quest, my immediate boss, Bumi Ashaolu, was a chemical engineer, and in fact, we were a team of 6, and half of us were chemical engineers. So,
wow,
it's not a strange thing to see engineers in finance.
Okay, you're welcome on board. This evening, you can call us on the telephone 0700-923-923-923. That's the number to call, 0700-923-923-923. When the phone lines are open in just a moment, or you can send us a message on WhatsApp, 0817-313-6193. That's 0817-313-6193. Everybody should be interested in making their financial plan work. So it's not about having a plan, but it's having a plan that actually works. And that's why Uwa is in the studio this evening to discuss. So Uwa, let's get down to it. You know, this truism we throw around, we say that failing to plan is actually planning to fail. In the economic context, let's situate it there right now. Let's go to, since we're talking about finance here, let's situate that plan in finance. So I'll ask you, what is a financial plan? Or what is financial planning?
A financial plan. So let's make it a simple, phrase. Planning your finances. Mm-hmm. Everybody, individuals, corporates, businesses, entrepreneurs, you have need for money, and you also generate some income. Planning essentially means you have an idea of what's coming in as income, and you have a plan for how you will spend that money. You have objectives for the money that comes in, whether in savings or investment, to meet your goals. So it's basically, a user scenario where, things come in and you have an idea of what you want to do with them, basically. So that's in respect to a personal financial plan. It's really planning for the rainy day, planning to meet goals, spending goals, and protecting yourself, essentially.
So that's on paper now.
Yeah.
So let's bring it to practice.
Yes.
How does one effectively make a financial plan? Because we're talking about money here,
Yeah.
and every day people are looking for money,
Yeah.
and they say that money is never enough. So in planning for a resource that is scarce, that is never going to be adequate, how does one make an effective financial plan?
Okay.
Practically.
I think I'll give you an example of myself. I had to learn the hard way. So basically, if you don't put stuff down, if you don't write stuff down, you wouldn't have a target that you're going to. So what I do, or what I advise people to do to have a basic financial plan, you need to have a very good idea of what your income looks like, and a good idea of what your expense looks like and could look like. Okay. Basically, what you want to do with your income and expense lines is that you want to ensure you have a leftover, which many people call a savings. But that savings would act as a buffer for you as a person, because you don't want to run into unexpected, expenses. Because we always run into unexpected expenses. We have, sometimes you may have bad health, you can't work, so you need, some cash to take care of. Some people, you could lose your job. You don't want to be stranded, immediately lose your job, so you have to, have a buffer. So for me, what I do is I have this Excel sheet that I built, but it's a very simple sheet.
Yeah.
It's an income. I project over maybe 12 months, 24 months, and my expense. So I know exactly what I spend, taking care of the home, taking care of the family, and I have an idea of what should be left, and I have a tracker. So for me, I haven't go the extra mile and chart that buffer, the savings buffer.
Yeah.
And it's an incentive. The wider the buffer, the more relaxed I am, knowing fully well that, look, okay, I can do some extra things here and there from month to month. But just to add, some people have multiple income streams, so if they are building their spreadsheet, it will be a bit more complicated, because they have to have multiple income lines. But for me, yes, multiple income lines, but I only use my salaried income. That even increases my buffer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this just to let you know that you can join this conversation at any time in the course of this program. You can call us on the telephone 0700 923 923 923, and we're discussing this evening making your financial plan work. That's what we're talking about here. So if you have any need to seek professional advice, you can call on the program on how you can make your financial plan work. Do you have plans, financial plans, and they're not working? You're running into losses and debt all the time because you feel that there's something wrong with your plan. You can call on 0700 923 923 923 and send us a message as well on 0817 313 6193. You can ask questions. It's actually consultations here for free this evening while Owa is still here in the studio. So just like you've said, all those spreadsheets, putting up all those charts and all of that, it's one thing to actually make those plans, and it's another thing altogether to have those plans, work out. So how does one actually ensure that those plans they put together, that it works?
Well, some things depend on you. Yes, some things are out of your hands. So coming into this here, for instance, we could see what was happening in the macro environment. Okay, pressure on FX reserves, increased debt. At some point there was going to be, a devaluation. That was going to occur this year. what I know many people did within my circle was, look, Naira is going to get devalued. I have FX liabilities. How do I hedge myself? Okay, so at that point, you then design a plan for yourself. And the plan is very simple. I have FX liabilities. I need to match them with FX assets. Okay, when is the best time to begin accumulating these assets? Is it in January or after the devaluation, when I don't know when that will happen? Okay, it will be cheaper for me to start early than to wait till later. Okay, so at that point, whatever income you're earning, especially if you're earning in Naira, what will you be doing at that point? You'll probably be, racking up the FX asset. Whether, you have options. You have a lot of options currently in the country. So some things depend on you, like the external environment. The things that, some things do not depend on you. You have no control over them. Some things also depend on you. So now you have the problem. The problem is, my liabilities on a monthly basis are going to go up because there's going to be devaluation. What depends on me is how much I have, how much I can put aside to meet up my future obligations. So at that point, you begin to either cut down on some expenses that you can get rid of. I mean, there are things you can't do without, right? Like if you rent a house, you have to pay your car, you have to pay your staff, you have to pay school fees. Just means involuntary expenses. But for the voluntary expenses, like you take a trip on a holiday, you buy a new pair of shoes, you buy, those sort of expenses. You can then cut them out, but you have to be conscious that you are doing this and making all the sacrifices because of a financial goal you want to meet. So that's one way to do it. You have to look at your external environment, understand what's going on and plan to defend yourself. So, I mean, if you don't really mind, having so much exposure, eventually, and having to pay for it, at a higher cost, then you can, do whatever you want. But if you want to protect yourself, then you have to,
Okay. Yeah. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you so much for calling. Tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
Okay, so this is James Obona from Osadiaye.
You have to help us to speak up a little louder. We can hardly hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
It's much better now.
Okay, so I want your guest to come down to the level of a layman. I understand where he's coming from. He's talking about spreadsheet and Excel, using that to watch your income and expenditure. I want him to come down to somebody who is listening, maybe a paper seller or somebody who doesn't know things like spreadsheet and Excel. And like you asked, how can somebody who is not really sound, you should speak in a language that the majority of people will understand. I mean, what I do is, if I'm getting salary, I save, and it is easy to save because what I do is I take some part of that money and save it, and I live as if, for instance, if I'm being paid 20,000, I save 15,000, I save 5,000. I live as if what they are paying me is 15,000. So and I put 5,000 aside because if after they are paying me 15,000, won't I survive? I will survive. So I know the saying is that as your salary increases, your expenditure also increases. But I think that as the salary increases, you can actually still save as if you are still collecting the old salary. You just work around it. So
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. You too can participate. Do you have a financial plan? Maybe a financial plan that is not working and you want to know why it is not working, or you want to put up a financial plan, you don't know how to go about putting up that plan, or a plan that actually works. You can call on the telephone 0700 923 923 923. Do you have money? I want to plan around that money, and you don't know actually how to go about it. Now, money is very hard to come by. This is not the time to throw about your money. So you want an advice on how you can put an effective plan on that money. You can call us now 0700 923 923 923, or send a message on WhatsApp 0817 313 6193. So the next thing to ask you is you are a scientist actually, so let's go back to phone lines first. Hello. Good evening to you.
Hello, good evening.
Thank you for calling. Tell us your name and where you're calling from.
I'm calling from Lekki.
Welcome. What's the name, sir?
My name is Nazim.
Okay, go ahead quickly. Talk to us.
Okay, I have a plan, but I didn't have enough money.
Okay. You have a plan, but you don't have enough money. Okay, I knew that question would come. So Uwa, you keep that question in mind. So as a scientist, we're talking about technology right now.
Yeah.
Almost everything is supported by technology. Almost everything. So what kind of technology? You've talked about Excel sheets, of course, which run on computers. But what kind of technology or resources are out there that can actually help people in financial planning?
Oh, there are loads. I mean, to the first caller point, Excel, in terms of technology, Excel is the most basic.
Yeah.
But you can also use a pen and a paper, okay, to keep track, month to month. I know
you can create the Excel on a sheet of paper.
Yeah, just draw lines.
Just a T line. You just draw T. Yeah.
Back in the day, our grandparents used to do draw lines, income, expense, and then you have balance at the end.
Yeah.
But there are loads of apps, savings apps, that you could make use of. Even Nigerian built apps, likes of Carrywise, Piggyvest, those apps would help you meet your savings or investment goals. For the second caller who talked about,
he has plans, but
yes,
the money is not enough.
Well, like I said, building a plan, you have two lines. You have income, you have expense.
Yeah.
So what it sounds to me like is his expense, is way more than his income. There are two things you could do. The first, which, because I don't know his current circumstances, the first is to try to build how much you earn, do, other things in addition to what you're doing now. There are so many things you could do online, so many things you could do offline, just to complement your income. That's one, to build it up. The second one is to look at his expense profile. What do you spend money on? What are the things that are absolutely important? What are the things I can remove? And personal inspection, the truth is, many times on personal inspection, you could find out that, there are one or two things that you can take away or even defer. There are one or two payments that you are currently making that if you, take an extra step to negotiate with whoever is whoever you're owing, could defer those payments. So you have to look at that. How can I spread payments? If it's a loan, or how can I avoid some expenses? Just so that you can meet your financial goals. Some of your financial goals could be simple. I like to buy a car. I earn 100,000 naira. My current expense is 80, so I saved 20 for the car. Is there any way I can reduce my expense so that I can save 30 towards the car? Your financial, the goals you're targeting through a financial plan could be numerous. It could be as high as I want to build a house, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it's just an objective. You have an objective, and then you have your income and expense lines to play with, to tinker with.
Okay, so in the implementation of this plan we're talking about now, does it mean that one will have only one plan throughout one's lifetime, or would there be circumstances in one's life that somebody cannot make changes to that particular plan? If there are, just help us to point at those.
So the answer is yes and no, because the plan, the template never changes. It's an income, expense, which leads to a savings and investment. Okay, but the components, what makes up that income and expense can't change. It will change as life goes on. And I'll give you a funny example. When I just got married, kids, for my plan, I had a certain portion of the budget for things like Pampers, baby food.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward to time when, the kids would get a bit older and they wouldn't need any of these things anymore. So I could save that portion, right? But what happened just before, or in fact, I think just after, when I thought I had reached that point to save, there was a naira devaluation, and all my expense lines, got more costly. So the savings I thought I was going to have, I couldn't. Now the kids are a bit bigger. You have to think of, holidays, school fees, school trips, all those things. 10 years ago, were nowhere near my plan. But now, it's front and center of my plan. So a plan pretty much changes, as your life journey goes on. Yeah, but the components remain the same.
Wow. So they can become more expensive, as the days go by.
Yeah, I mean, even if you are spending on the same thing, the same items, food, clothes, rent, because of inflation, all those items get more expensive in time.
So, how talking about the changes now? How often does one need to, make changes, to their plans, or just sit down to try to review these plans in the light of these financial objectives that one has set out to achieve for themselves?
So my people will say, when they break, you go no. So essentially, you can't miss it. You see, when because your priorities change. Yeah. So things that were at the bottom of your priority list, when they become more prominent, you would clearly know. So, a new graduate, someone leaves school, his idea of housing most likely will be, where can I rent, right? So his planning is towards paying a rent. As he gets older, he's worked 15 years, 20 years. The idea he has of housing then becomes, where can I buy? Okay? So, obviously, buying a house is more expensive than renting a house. So, if you're paying a mortgage. Okay? So, that planning for his housing then takes more priority. And it would alter or change the way, his financial plan has looked 10 or 15 years ago.
You can still put a call across to us here, 0700-923-923-923. That's the number to call, 0700-923-923-923. And we're discussing this evening, making your financial plan work. Do you have a financial plan? Do you have money to support that plan? Or are you looking for money to support that plan that you have financially? You can talk to us about it right here. Are you struggling with the plans you're making or struggling to finance those plans? That's why Osadiaye is in the studio here this evening to provide answers, to point you to where solutions are to those particular problems that you might be having. You can also send us a message on WhatsApp, 0817-313-6193, or you're calling us on 0700-923-923-923. So, this particular question I want to ask you is in the light of shortage of cash or funds, like the other caller said, he has plans, but no money to finance those plans. Now, these financial plans we're talking about, is this something that somebody can just do on their own? Or you have to go and get a professional to help you to do that, knowing that professionals don't come for free or even cheap?
So, on the personal side, if you're, any individual, you're planning, you want to have a proper structure to your financial plan. It's something you can learn. Okay? Several resources on YouTube or, social media, you can actually learn these things. You'd also, those, like things like YouTube, they also provide guides on technology resources that are free that you can use. The second is you can ask people who are sort of experienced in this, like professionals. We have loads of them within the CFA society, very well experienced that you could speak with to help you. We who run regular clinics, and try to educate people, try to improve financial literacy. They will help you, on without any charges. So for the business, because business is corporate, they also have to do, some financial planning, a lot of financial planning. They hire corporate, professionals to do this, consultants, staff, they have the whole trying to do this. But for individuals, you can learn these things. If you don't have anyone to talk to, within your network, there's no one who has an idea of financial planning. You can always learn these things, free of charge on the internet.
And the messages are coming in here. You can send yours to 0817-313-6193 or can call us on the telephone. Yes, you can. You can call us. We still have a few minutes to go from here. 0700-923-923-923. Someone says, is it okay to call to ask a question? Of course you can. 0700-923-923-923. That's the number to call, making plans and seeing them work. Hello?
Okay, so I'm calling back again. Quickly, let me ask this question. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody was talking to us, and the person said that sometimes you have to be stingy in order for you to amass wealth or to save. So I'd like you to speak to that. He said there was a time he was not giving anybody in his family money, and they were like, this guy is too stingy because he was trying to save. That now, if each time they ask him now, he's able to give them, and they're like, he's not actually stingy after all. But they didn't know that all those why he was trying to say that sometimes you have to be stingy.
Okay, thank you very much. We got it because of time. So, stingy and prudence, are they the same thing?
Yeah, it's the same. There's a funny story of two brothers who were making up their way in life, and they had a big community to take care of. There was one of them who, was very generous, and the other one was stingy in his words.
Yeah.
If many years later, the generous one hadn't built capital, didn't have a house, blah, 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 ran into problem, while the other one, was comfortable and had a buffer. In the end, the village people, would say the one with the buffer is the wise son. So in the end, you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
In a financial plan, you can have a portion, to be generous. And when you exceed that, or when you reach the limit, then, hands off, I can't do any more than this. I've done my bit. Okay? Because you have limited resources. Unless, of course, you are exceedingly wealthy, then you can go ahead and, but you have to be prudent. You have to take care of yourself. Financial plan is all about looking out for yourself. Okay? And within that plan, you can also look out for people, having a small portion towards, or some portion towards that.
Does this apply to your family? As in, I hear some people say sometimes that even in your family, sometimes you have to create artificial scarcity, to be able to save. Sometimes just say,
I don't have a word.
So sometimes just say it's not available. I mean,
fortunately enough, no, not in my personal experience, but I can see why, sometimes that has to happen, because if you have several dependents and you have a lot of demand, you would reach a point where, you look back, or you check your pockets and it's empty, and you have your personal exposure you can't take care of. So you can't even plan for yourself if you are excessively generous.
Thank you very much, Osadiaye, for coming to Money Talks this Monday. We've been talking about making your financial plan work, and Osadiaye is Senior Vice President, Oil and Gas and Industrials at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Is our guest, has been our guest on the program this evening. Thank you so much for your wealth of experience you have shared this evening. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Captain.
Yes, sir. And we'll be back next Monday at 4:30 p.m. Do join us at that time. You can send your inquiries to www.cfasocietynG.org, or you can follow on all social media handles. Ask questions and get answers. Smart Uwadiae is my name. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you again next Monday.